how traditional jobs are becoming obsolete.
Yeah. Okay.
And just how it's not that it's completely phased out, but it's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been seeing all this stuff, how like our what's the word? The archaic model of like just jobs and like what companies expect from employees.
Yep.
How you're expected to show up to work, work 40 hours a week,
At
and
least
make like one third the money, if not more.
At least 40
At least
hours a
40,
week. Right.
and Monday through Friday,
Yep.
and that's just the standard.
Right.
Which I feel like it's like even from a young age, it's just like drilled into you to believe that's what you're supposed to do with your life.
Right. Yeah.
And I feel like that changes each generation, because like obviously like our grandparents and our great grandparents, like the whole American dream and like supporting a family, like you just had to work, and like people wanted to have a job or a career.
And in that period of time, because technology wasn't what it is today, jobs were pretty standard, right?
Right.
I mean, there were far less, I don't know what the right term would be, but far less things that you could do. Like,
Right.
so, there were jobs that certain groups of people would do based on this level of education. And then if that person had a higher level of education, then there were the jobs that those people would do. And
Right.
that was sort of like the structure of it,
Mm-hmm.
And I was just funny you bring this topic up, because been reading a couple of articles recently, one of which was talking about how, so we're starting to see companies scaling back. I think Procter and Gamble announced today that they're going to eliminate 7,000 office jobs over the course of the next 2 years.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that's happening in those cost-cutting and restructuring is that they're eliminating the middle manager type positions, right, which for a lot of years, I mean, that's, people have made a hell of a good living
Sure.
being a middle manager,
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I've been for the
Right.
last decade,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah. I've kind of been
making like a okay wage,
decent amount of money,
but a livable wage.
But what happens is, like you talked about, what I think is changing in the mindset of the employee these days is, why do I have to go here to this place and be there for this period of time on this number of days for what? So, okay, yeah, I get a paycheck every other Friday. Okay, that's awesome.
Right.
But when they throw you on this salary train, then whatever they ask you to do, historically, and I fall into this category, you feel obligated to say yes, right?
Yeah.
Because what, in the back of your head, you're going, like when I was 30 years old, back in my head, I'm going, well, the harder I work, the more I do.
Right.
I'll make more money. I'll get a promotion. I'll get more responsibilities. Blah 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 blah, all that shit.
Right. Yeah, and it's like you are like, why do, and this is most, I'm not, and this is becoming less and less popular. It's not like it's not even like a real thing anymore. But why are you expecting your employees? Everyone has to be there at 7 a.m. to like 3 p.m. that entire time, when like no matter what your business is, does every single person need to be there for that amount of time? Like, does everyone actually have to, required to be like, and it would be more attractive, especially to like younger people now, to like have a flexible schedule and make a solid income. Yeah. And that's going to be more like, people might actually want to work for you if you have a more flexible schedule. I saw this thing. You ever listen to Jordan Peterson?
Yeah.
Okay, so I saw a thing that he said, and he said the biggest lie is that everyone is going to have a career. He's like, a career makes up 2% of the population. He's like, careers consider like, doctors, lawyers, some people in trade, some people in higher management of like owning businesses and stuff. But the majority of people have jobs, and a job.
I think that's opposition of what we're talking about when we talk about like the traditional structure, because like, as you know about my family history, both my parents were educators.
Right.
So education was important. So that wasn't even a question of whether I was going to go to college. And it was just like, that was expected. You went to college, you graduated, and you got a job and you began your career. I fall into that category of probably like 65% of the white males that graduated high school at the year I did that were like, well, I was just going to do business and economics degree.
Right.
And you just get a job, right?
Yeah.
You're just like, I don't know what that exactly means. And you just go to work for somebody.
And it's just like being told you should go to university out of high school. Like that was a biggest thing, and I think that's
one of the biggest scams in this country.
It's awful. And like me being, you know, firstborn and oldest of all my siblings, and you know, I graduated and I did okay in school, but as soon as I got to college, it was like I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue. I didn't know what I was supposed to do or what I wanted to do.
Right.
I'm 32 years old now, and like now I finally understand where I'm at and what I want to do. But back then, it's like you're almost like herded like cattle through this system of like,
yeah,
you have to do all this because if you don't, you're not going to have a good job.
Well, and you're 100% right. That was all part of the scam, which was you got to go to college. Well, fine. And as time went by, college became more and more expensive, so people had to borrow money. So where are they borrowing it from? Oh,
right.
Hey, federal government goes, hey, let's put this program together. They can borrow money from us.
Yeah, we'll pay for your college.
It's tax dollars that you've given us. Oh, and by the way, we're going to charge you interest to pay it back to us. It's your money.
It's just as bad as having a credit card.
Yeah.
You know, if not worse.
And so now you've got people that graduated college, 4, 5, 6 years ago that are hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And for what?
Yeah.
It's an absolute travesty.
And I'm fortunate enough I didn't get myself too deep into university, so that I did get my debt paid off fairly quickly because I decided to go off and do my own things and work retail jobs and play music and all that. But another thing is like, so college, I'm not dogging on college because you obviously want your doctors to go to medical school. You want your lawyers to go to law school. You want those people to actually be educated because those are higher demanded careers that are, they're high demand, they're high stress, they're long hours, but you need them though.
And there's a technicality to
yes,
it. It's
right.
kind of like being in certain trades. Like if you're an electrician, it's not like you just
watch YouTube.
You don't just watch YouTube videos and go to somebody's house and do some electrical work. You know, there's code to follow and all that stuff. Whether you agree with how building code is set up, that's
right.
not a topic for this particular episode. We could dive into that some other time. But, you're right.
Your heart surgeon's not going to have a laptop up in front of him watching a triple bypass tutorial.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Nurse, is this the right?
Yeah, does that look right? I don't know. We'll try
Can you bring that other video up we had on earlier?
That other one had more views. And then like just general jobs, like any like the job I have now, anyone younger than me that's doing this kind of stuff. Jobs aren't very desirable, but we do them so that we can make money and pay our bills because we feel like we have to. And I feel like and this has been going on for a while, but like I feel like more recently we're moving toward a more creative path to people earning an income and a life through their passions and interests and talents.
But that's been one of the things for me that's been kind of eye-opening over the last couple of years, is because I'm a product of that system.
Right.
And you're almost taught kind of not to think for yourself.
Right.
You stunt your creative part of your brain.
Sure.
Unless you have it, you have some of that inherently, with your music and stuff like that. And that's something that some people have and some people don't. But there is a creative side. Everybody has a creative side. And I think for a long time, that system has squelched that on a lot of people, and just do what we tell you to do.
Right.
And you'll be able to have the American dream. You'll have your house. You can have your kids. You can you have your car, whatever. And
I think, and like years ago, I mean, like, and that's what's crazy is like, I'm gonna drag this on, but like, if you think about grandparents and like coming back from like World War II and Vietnam and all that stuff, and like those people like coming back from something and trying to build a life from that, and then like the Great Depression and all that stuff, like our entire society and history is like from that period just been like recovering and building this country. And then like we get to like your generation, and then like your parents are trying to just work so they can put their kids through school to have a better education and a better job.
Right.
And then like you guys are doing the same thing for us.
But you think about, like, you talked about what happened with this country, especially after World War II, when that was we sort of went through this boom, our economy boomed, and why was that? Because you had all these people that were fighting this war, and now all of a sudden they come back home and they need jobs.
Right.
And you think about like what manufacturing meant to this country at that point in time. Like everybody did that. Like you could go to work, like you could go to work at General Motors, you could go to work at Whirlpool or whatever and have a manufacturing job. And guess what? You could afford a house, you could afford a car, you could afford to put food on a table, and you lived a pretty good life.
And like don't quote me on this, but like maybe at least around the grandparents' era, only the father of the house really had to
was
work.
Working. And that
most of the time.
And that was the case with my parents' generation too.
And like the mother was raising the kids, and
very few of my friends' moms when I was growing up worked.
Yeah.
Very few. The father was typically the breadwinner, and that was sufficient to live a pretty good life for most people.
It's just
now we're in a society that you have to have two incomes to afford to be able to just sort of like
scrape by. And if you have children, it's even harder.
It's even harder. Right. and
I think like I'm one of these people, but like just through like experience and growing up and everything and being from, having multiple divorced parents and all that, it's like I'm afraid to have children in this world. Honestly, that's one of the biggest things. And I know that's not the reason most people aren't having kids right now, because they have seen a big decrease in people having children. But granted, that is on our mind now. Like that's something we may want someday. But it's like in the current economy and the state of the world, it's so scary to bring a child into the world now.
And I guess I understand that. I think
partially financially.
Part of it is financial, but I think when you talk about the effects that the world that we live in has on kids, I think that's where you and your partner have to sit down and have that conversation about how you're going to raise your kids.
Right. Yeah.
That's important, because you
Absolutely.
it's very different than when we raised our kids, but you got to set those boundaries up and be
right.
like, and I know I don't want to get into a whole parenting conversation, but there's parents out there that just sort of, it's just like, well, my kid has a phone. He or she's in 4th grade. Well, why does your kid need an iPhone?
You got the iPad kids.
Yeah. Why do you need that?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, unless it's for, I didn't have a phone. I had a flip phone. I think I finally got one when I was like 16. It was the first time I had, and it was set up to just call my parents.
And that's what parents will say today. Well, it's for an emergency. I didn't have a phone growing up as an emergency.
Right.
I don't know, if somebody broke a leg.
It's like
somebody get on your bike and ride to either
you got a call from the school or the police, or you came home,
or you came home, or you better get on your bike and you go to somebody's house and use their phone.
Right.
I mean, it sounds silly, but it's.
No, I know.
Like before we had that technology, nobody even thought that was anything that was necessary.
No, because the ground rules were simple. Like you come home before dark.
Yeah.
And if you didn't, you were in trouble with your parents. And I feel like back then there was more respect for your parents, because they kind of drilled the fear of God into you at that time.
The respect for your parents and the respect for your friends' parents.
That too, yeah.
Was a thing.
Right.
Like when I was growing up, you didn't fuck with your friends' dads.
No.
That was.
I was always afraid of them.
Right. Yeah, you're like
even though they were awesome.
You're like walking the door and you're, how you doing, Mr.
Hi, Mr.
Klinica. You're like shaking hands and Mrs. Klinica, doing all that, and like how to Leave It to Beaver. But it was, my generation is how we were around our friends' parents.
And I feel like, especially like my age group, we're in such a we're in between the because we were old enough, I don't know, when I was even in middle school to early high school, I had just got a phone and just got a computer for the first time. And the internet wasn't huge yet.
Yeah.
It was a thing, but
not like it is today.
Not everybody just had it in their pocket,
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it's weird because we kind of we grew up as that stuff was developing over time, and by the time I was in college was when it was fully I got an iPhone when I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
the craziest thing ever.
And now think about what you're doing with the iPhone.
We're filming a podcast with it right now.
Right.
Never would have thought.
No.
No. I do want to circle back to the job thing.
Yeah.
Because this is one thing that irks me, and it's the, like, and I'm not speaking for every company, but like the promise of pension and lifetime at a job or a career. But you think about how, as human beings, how we, like, just for example, like, say you're at this company for 5 years, are looking for new employment, you know. So you lie to your boss, you make up doctor's appointments, you do all this stuff, and giving the 2 week notice, I feel like that doesn't exist. At least not anymore.
Yeah.
It's not a real thing that's implemented in jobs. Like it's like a common courtesy more than anything. But I think, and this is my opinion, I think a job should be treated like a sports contract. You sign a 2-year to 3-year deal with this company, and when that time's up, you decide, like,
You're a free agent.
Hey Joe, am I getting a raise? Am I getting a promotion? And if not, I'm walking and I'm going somewhere else.
Looking for something else, right?
You know, and instead of being like deceitful and like dishonest and like all this like tiptoeing around stuff as people, like the way that we are, because that's just how people are.
Yeah. Oh my God, they might find out I'm looking for another job.
Yeah.
And they're gonna fire me. And you're like,
And then when they get a reference call or an email from another company, they're like, "What the?" You know.
call you in. You're looking for another job.
But do you not agree that that would be like a way better to do it?
It would be, but it would be. It would be. Again, I think that breaks the established norms.
Yeah.
So companies would be like, well, why would I want to pay you $60,000 a year for the next 3 years?
For you to just leave me in 3 years.
No.
Well, you're investing in your person.
Exactly. You're going to pay me $60,000 a year, whether I sign a contract or not, if I stay here working here for 3 years. And if if at the end of that 3-year period, an extra 20 grand on the table, I might stick around.
Yeah, I might sign up for another 5 years or something.
I mean, look at
It just seems like a better way to do
sports
business.
teams that have pissed money away
Right.
on players that like sign these long contracts, and then after like halfway through it, they're dog shit.
Yeah.
And we still owe this guy all this money.
Yeah, because he signed the contract and he's getting paid it no matter what.
Exactly.
So it's like, you know, if you're going to...
And I understand it's in a way it's maybe not apples to apples, but in a way it is. I mean, if you take a Fortune 500 company and, you know, based on their annual revenue, and I mean, it's not all that different from Major League Baseball or NFL. I mean, I know that those are, we look at those now as like these huge businesses, but how is that different than going to work for AT&T?
Yeah.
Or
and
DoorDash or somebody like that.
I've seen people like, you know, it's different with like we were talking about doctors and lawyers and all that stuff, but like to go work for like places like Tesla and like, you know, work for people on like that work under Elon Musk or like stuff like that, like they're not looking for like traditionally like educated people. They almost want to just see what you can do.
They want, well, and I think that's a lot. I think that speaks a lot to the success some of those companies have had, because they're willing to let people be creative, like you talked about, you know, as opposed to, this is your job, this is what you do, here's the hours.
We're gonna train you
work.
for 3 months.
And, you know, we've both been at places that like don't ask a lot of questions.
Right.
Like you're sitting there and you see this thing happen and you go, this just makes no sense.
Yeah.
And you try to bring it up to somebody.
Try to change it.
And they're like,
I've tried that multiple times in the last few years.
Don't ask questions.
Don't poke the bear.
Right. Don't poke the bear. Right.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, and then it gets me thinking, like, you know, because for the last, you know, I don't want to say the whole last decade, because I did take some time to explore music and creativity quite a bit. But, and then in that time, I would have some sort of like small regrets in the back of my mind. Like, should I have finished college? Should I have done all this? Should I have went and got a better job? But then, like, you know, I landed a decent job the last couple of years. And like,
right.
And in that moment where like, that's when I kind of like got really reeled into the whole thing of like, this is my job. I work 7 to 5, Monday through Friday. I'm making the good amount of money I should be making to create a life with my partner.
Yeah.
And 4 years later, I'm now realizing that's not what I want. You know, I want more time with my fiance and my family and friends.
Isn't it interesting?
It's not about just money anymore.
Yeah, right. Interesting / ironic to think that, and this has happened to me a couple times in my, I guess I won't use the word career, in my life, where circumstances that were not initiated by me change the landscape.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened with you.
Right.
The landscape got changed, not by anything that you chose to do, and you chose to not go that route.
Not to talk, go forward with it.
So while we're on that top, if you don't mind.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
So kind of walk me through a little bit about how, like, what your thought process was as you looked at that situation and what was presented to you, and how kind of not. I don't. It doesn't matter what decision you made.
Yeah.
But like, how did you get to the decision that you made?
So a lot of it has to do with Alexis, because she's my rock.
Okay.
You know, she helps clear my mind so many times, and love her for that. But what's crazy is, like, I was called in. I already kind of knew what was happening. I heard we were going to be shutting down, you know, and the offer was put on the table of like, hey, you're being selected, only you. You're valuable, and we want you to uproot your life and come move over here and continue to work for this place.
To the middle of BFE.
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, there's this, not like you're moving to, I don't know.
Like Nashville,
I was
or
say Nashville,
New York City, or
Austin,
something.
Texas.
Yeah, some big city or big populated area.
Some maybe quote unquote desirable location instead of the middle of BFE. And
Right.
we're not going to name the state because I don't want to offend anybody.
Yeah.
I'm from that state. In that state, I don't want to offend anybody.
So, you know, this is the offer, you know, significant more amount of money, moving expenses, all that kind of stuff, you know. But the other problem with it is, before this all happened, I was already shifted into a different position, which I was actually excited about.
Right.
Because it was taking a lot of the stress off of me that I was already having at this job.
And having experience in both of the worlds that you're talking about, the position that you were transitioning into is a hell of a lot more fun.
It's more fun, and it's just a lot less stressful.
And a lot less crap.
And it was one of those, like, I knew I could be good at it because of my current position.
Yes.
And so I did it, and I thought I did pretty well for a while. And then when I was told about this whole move, promotion, whatever, I would be put back into the job I was doing with more work for more money, but more money, more bullshit, right?
Yep.
So in that moment, I was not sure. Like, I was like,
money's on the table.
Money's
right?
on the table, and I got to think about it. I can't just give you an answer right now.
Right.
So I'm like, let me go home and think about it. Let me talk it over with her, and let's see what happens. He's like, yeah, just let me know by the end of the week. So I go home. I waited to tell her. I wasn't going to text her about this.
Yeah.
This thing needed to be a face-to-face conversation.
100%.
And I came home. I like, let me just tell you everything that was told, and then I'll let you talk. And I told her everything. I'm like, these are the pros. You know, the cons are we both be leaving our friends and family behind. Like, granted, we're only a couple hours away, but like, it's that uproot a little bit of like not being able to just go see all those people all the time.
Right.
And our friends and everything activities we have going on outside of our jobs. And I let her talk about it. And then, you know, she's got older grandparents and family and friends here too, and a job. And she was literally she just got a promotion at her current job.
Right.
And now she's moving on to somewhere else. But the only thing that she did, she's like, I'm going to ask you right now. And she's like, if you had to decide in this moment right now, what would you do? And I said, oh, I'd stay. She's like, there you go. And that was it. And that was how we decided. I do not ever consider the alternative ever since. And then when I went in and made it known that I wasn't going, it was solid. It was done. And for the next few weeks, I was pulled back and forth, like constantly, like throwing more money at me,
in other ways,
doing all this kind of stuff. And I was like, no, it's just not going to work. But that's how.
Well, so you know what's ironic, I guess, and it's funny how that situation ties in to me in a way. So, you know, I made that decision, which would be 4 years ago, coming up 4 years,
crazy.
that I made a decision to leave that company. And funny because I wasn't in the market to leave.
Yeah, you weren't planning on it.
It wasn't what I anticipated doing, and whatever, circumstances being what they were. So I make that decision, and I was telling Deborah, I said, you know, when I was in the midst of trying to decide that, I was like, you know, I could stay here, and I got a pretty good gig. Money's good.
It's a comfortable spot.
I'm comfortable. I know what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. You know, I could be here for a long time. Now, fast forward, if I had stayed there, I'd be trying to make the same decision you're making right now. You had
Oh,
had to
sure.
make,
Yeah, it'd probably be the exact same
and
decision.
it probably would have been the same decision.
Yeah, and
It's
and
just
that's
weird,
and it's wild to think like where maybe I would be if that were the
right?
case. Like, who knows? I mean,
Yeah,
I keep telling everyone keeps asking me, so many people want me to stay and like, what am I going to do next and all that. And I'm like, this job came around at the perfect time in my life.
yeah,
It was after the pandemic. I needed to get myself out of debt. I had to make an income to support myself and, my girlfriend and everything. And it was like, it helped clean the slate for me. And I also learned a lot, and I became a more confident person, and as a person and as a worker. But I also it also like pushed me to become more than what I've been doing.
yeah.
And like that's why now I'm pushing myself to kind of branch out and take a risk and try some things that I really want to do. So
Yeah, that it's this was a good topic because
Yeah.
I've wanted to ask you what your thought process was, so it was kind of cool how that just kind of
yeah,
led to that.
that was kind of not that I didn't think we were going to get there, but I was kind of hoping that we would kind of circle to that at some point because I did want to talk about it eventually, but this whole topic kind of just tied into it.
Yeah. So talking about the work environment or workforce and seeing how that is changing day by day, and 5 years from now, I don't even know what it's going to look like.
It's crazy.
There's all this crap out there on the media that's saying that AI is going to take everybody's jobs and all this blah blah and all this crap, and the stuff that I have read from people who are inside that world are saying that that's not really true.
Yeah, I keep seeing that too. I saw something on that today.
So I've watched a couple of episodes of Sean Ryan's show.
Oh, okay.
Where he has had some tech people on discussing AI's role in warfare.
I think I saw a clip of that.
It's going to change. The technology is going to allow, because warfare is changing.
Right.
It's very different today than it has been in decades or what. It's changed dramatically. But that technology will allow the soldier to process things differently. But at the end of the day, the decision is still going to be made by a person, not a computer.
Right.
So, again, the media is trying to make people nervous that, oh, a computer or a robot's going to do my job. I mean, we've been using robots to do manufacturing functions for 30 years?
Yeah. And, I think what they're kind of talking about more is like AI is not completely replacing like full jobs, but it is going to eliminate that. Like, I think it targets kind of the middle tier of any job of like people that, how do I explain this? I can't remember the wording they used, but it was like someone who, like any standard person who just has a job, who has no training or like real experience or education.
Okay.
And like that AI program replacing that type of worker on something that can be done like a simple task.
So maybe some type of computer processing, data processing types of stuff.
Yeah.
Which has been happening. That's not,
right. That's nothing new.
That's nothing new at all. But I mean, look at fast food industry.
Right.
Okay, like what happened coming out of the pandemic, right? And we can't find people, or people don't want to do this job anymore for X number of dollars an hour. So we put these kiosks in, and you just do it all there. And then you got 4 people that work in the back.
Which they also raised minimum wage because of people not wanting to do those jobs.
Right. Yeah. That's a whole.
But that's
a whole different.
That's another
conversation.
whole episode.
So that's not AI per se, but it's a technological advancement that has eliminated the need for as many people to do that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, and it's not just affecting. I mean, so you think about how it affects like the standard like worker for like say a warehouse or like a assembly line or something, or like some machine is programmed to put this together or make this instead of somebody doing it by hand, or a person trained on a machine or something. But it goes as deep as like AI is affecting like artists
Yep.
as in like
Yep.
people that create digital art,
Yep.
like pictures or videos, musicians. I mean, there's AI music.
AI music.
It's affecting the film industry
big time.
really bad.
Bad. And it's having the same type negative effect on music. Like
Yeah, and then like that's how much it's affecting like jobs and like and then the video game industry. It's hurting that too because supposedly now they're putting through like they're letting AI create its own video games and like that's terrible.
Yeah.
Because it's I mean with all those people, I mean those are all creative people that are whatever they're doing. They years ago took that risk of wanting to do a job where they could be creative and make things. And
so do you think that maybe not in the music or maybe, I don't know. I'll just ask the question. Do you think that the AI getting involved in that type of industry, let's just talk about the gaming industry, for example. Because I could see this where a gaming company, I don't even know who the big players are because I'm not into that, but uses that technology in the back of their mind thinking, well, I don't have to have a team of
500 people
to make this game.
Yeah.
Our profit, if we have 500 people make it, and the profit margin is X, we use a computer to do it, and the profit margin is now Y.
Right.
And, hey, what does that do to our stock? Pushes it up. That's good for the stockholders. Great.
Yeah, so what, like Sony's still making money because they gave Naughty Dog a $300 million budget, but if AI's doing it, they're not paying all those people that are the designers and coders and stuff.
Right. I mean, what's the investment on the technology side versus the people side?
Right.
And
at that point, why do you even need a real...
But yeah, I mean...
Because like at that point, you're kind of letting the AI be the creative part of the...
Exactly.
So you don't need a director or a writer or creator or anything like that.
Right. You don't need anybody on the creative side, and you probably can eliminate some of like the post-production type stuff that goes on, right?
Sure. Yeah, because I mean, there's AI editing.
Yeah.
You can...
I mean, think about how that affects the film industry.
Yeah. And that takes a lot of jobs away because you think about how many people and departments it takes to create this kind of stuff.
Gosh, yeah. You watch the credits after a movie and look at all those people.
And especially like, I mean, it's just as crazy today as it was 30 years ago, but like, especially when practical filmmaking was more of a thing, there is so much time and money and just blood, sweat, and tears put into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. And then, and that's one thing I don't understand. And I know inflation's a thing, but the budgets for movies now are so much bigger for, it seems like a lot less in a way.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you. I mean, I'm not an expert.
I saw
by
something,
any stretch, but
I saw something recently because, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fanatic. And that trilogy is probably the greatest thing that's ever been created.
Yes.
From its time when it came out and for how short it was, like nothing will ever touch that. Nothing will ever be like that again from a fan perspective, from a filmmaking perspective, all of it. But like I saw, and I don't have the exact numbers, but it was around this amount. But the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the full trilogy, because it was all shot in New Zealand back to back. They didn't take any breaks in between movies.
Okay.
They just released one year after another. And the budget altogether, I can't remember exactly. Let's just say it was $300 million. Let's just say that.
That's what they're paying for a movie, one movie
Avengers
today.
Endgame was like $500 million or something.
So, like,
for one film. And I know there's a 25-year difference. I understand that.
Okay, but
most of that new movie was shot either on green screen or...
what makes up the bulk of that number when it comes to
well,
the budget?
Unfortunately, nowadays
people?
it's the head actor. Like RDJ and all those people, they're probably pulling some stupid amount of money for like the top like 3-4 people in the film, and then everybody else it trickles down. But like, I think that's another thing that's like it's just like sports players, like the money they invest in these people to do any of these projects or play in this sport, it's like it's astronomical.
It's obscene. It's obscene is what it is. It's I'm a huge sports fan, but it's dumb.
It is stupid.
It is just dumb.
Especially in like the state of our country. And like we're always that country that's like reaching out, trying to put out other people's fires, and we're not really taking care of our own people. But then we can still pay a quarterback like.
And yet we have this weird, like we live in this weird, our society is so bizarre. Like we live in this like dual world, right?
Yeah.
There's like this our real world that we live in.
Right.
Like this is real life.
Yeah.
Like trying to get the bills paid, trying to take care of shit, right?
Yeah.
Car breaks down, awesome.
Yeah.
Whatever. And then you have like this industry, this sports industry over here that's paying some dude 30-40 million dollars a year to play a sport. Which, okay, I get it. He's talented. He's athletic.
And that's what I keep
get
hearing.
it. I get he's better than I am. I get that.
Okay. But is he worth that much?
Is he $30 million a year better than I am?
Right. I don't think the president's making that much money.
No, he's not. He's not. No. But yeah, it's just such a weird. It's just like.
It really is.
It just doesn't.
I think about that too much.
The crazy part of it is we as consumers just keep eating it, right?
Yeah.
Like sports fans just keep give me more. Movie fans, give me more.
Go to the theater every week, every video game,
Yeah.
$70. I'll buy it.
And they were bitching about we can't
And
make
they
the,
were
we can't make the rent, we can't pay the rent. But God damn it, I'm going to the movies.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but you're right, and that's the crazy circle that it's so crazy because we all fall into that that category.
Right. Yeah. What streaming service do I have to have so I can watch every game?
Yeah.
You know.
And like that too. Even if you're not going to the movie, you're going to catch that movie when it hits the streaming service, or
And
you're going to buy it digitally, or you're going to go out and buy the DVD.
Right.
What was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. Oh, shoot.
People out there that will sacrifice paying the rent so that they can have the 4 different streaming services so they can watch every sports game or go to the movies every week and buy the gigantic helmet-shaped popcorn thing.
Yeah, the popcorn bucket
Yeah.
for this week. And
Yeah.
I saw the funniest meme today. It has exactly to do with this too, because in the video game world, with tariffs and everything, they're getting ready to set the standard of all new video games will be $80 for one video game for a new game. That's where we're at, because right now they're $69.99 for like a standard new release, unless it's a smaller game.
Yeah.
So like any big blockbuster game is
Wow.
$69.99 plus tax, which is like 75 something.
Yeah.
Which is nuts, because games used to be $60 or around that.
50 to 60.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But now 80. That's what we're looking at.
Wow.
And this was the funny thing I saw. Well, the first thing I want to say, because this has to do with the same game, but there's this company, Gearbox, and their CEO made a comment on Twitter about this, or X or whatever it's called now. He said, $80 is the set price. If you're a real fan, you'll find a way to figure it out, and you'll play it. And everybody
Says the CEO that makes $20 million.
yeah, he made himself look like a jackass. But I saw a meme today, and it said people complaining about Borderlands 4, and then it was like the Switch 2 just came out yesterday,
Yeah.
and it said something about people and their priorities, and it had a picture of the Switch 2, and then the next picture said my bowl of iced soup. So it was just a bowl of water with ice in it.
Yeah.
People sacrificing because they'd rather have that over. And
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that. I fall into that category.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, like,
hey, we're having ramen this week because we got to get the new game.
This is why that we are in. This is why our economy looks the way that it does.
Yeah.
Because they have created these consumers that just cannot get enough, and absolutely can't get enough. So
I know.
it's yeah.
I mean, so like we went and I know we talked about it a little bit the last episode, but we did go see Mission Impossible.
Okay.
And it was badass.
You liked it?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Just
It was
pure entertainment.
pure entertainment. Tom Cruise doing insane life-threatening
stuff.
stunts. And it was cool. And
I will say that I don't know how much he gets paid to do a movie, but a dude that does his own stunts like that, I'm not saying he deserves $60 million, whatever
Right.
it is he makes, but that's, I guess he falls into a different category when you're doing
he's
that.
kind of like, I feel like the majority of actors are here and he's way up here as far as like, he's insane.
Yeah.
People are like, what do you do on your day off? He's like, oh, I'll just go fly a plane or like do.
Yeah.
And she's like, but like on your day off. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm always thinking about the next thing and I'll go fly my plane or do this or whatever it is. And I'm like, oh, so he just doesn't take a break.
Yeah.
For a guy that's 60 years old and looks the
Yeah.
way he does and does what he does, it's pretty nuts.
It is pretty impressive.
But yeah, we did see it. It's not my favorite Mission Impossible, but it was pretty insane. And for as long as it was, it could have ended sooner. But
Was it really long?
was 3 hours.
That's the standard nowadays.
Yeah, for like big movies.
Like, it's
now.
funny because, like, I think back to the days, like in the mid to late 80s, a movie was like 90 minutes. Like, that was a movie.
Yeah.
Then it became like 2 hours.
That was like the standard for a while.
Then it moved
2 hours.
to 2.5 hours. Now it's like the blockbuster type movies.
Especially when it's like part
3
of
hours.
a trilogy or like a saga.
Like a series. Or
Yeah.
like
Then
franchise.
they start
Yeah.
to get longer.
Yeah.
Because it's like we have to just do every single thing we can.
Yeah. I literally watched Raiders of the Lost Ark a couple nights ago.
It's
it's like 90 minutes.
timeless
It's like
movie.
92 minutes.
It's the
But it's
perfect movie.
It's like great. It's like I don't have to invest a
Just like
whole lot
Star
of time.
Wars. Like
Yeah.
A New Hope is what? Probably the same
It's
runtime.
about the same time. Yeah.
Maybe under 2 hours.
Yeah. I'm sure it is.
And I think like Revenge of the Sith, which is also 20 years old now, is
Wow.
a little over. Like it's about 2.5.
Uh-huh.
But that was also how many years later? From the 70s to 2000s.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, when did Star Wars come out? In 77?
7? Yeah.
77. Yeah.
And then Revenge of the Sith was 2005, I
Yeah.
think.
So 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Because I think it goes back to the comment about us as consumers, right?
Right.
They're like, well, we give them more.
Yeah.
They think they're getting more for their money.
yeah,
And, so.
because you do have those movies that just have fluff and filler.
Yeah.
But then you do have long movies like Saving Private Ryan's a longer movie, isn't it?
Yes.
Which that's actually a full movie. Like that was just a well written film,
Yeah. There's, yeah.
or Gladiator, or whatever.
Yeah. There was, with those films you're talking about, like most of the movie was relevant to the storyline.
Yeah.
There wasn't some divergent thing that went over here for 30 minutes
Yeah.
about something that's not.
And that's why I think
All that
sometimes nowadays, especially how often like TV series are made now,
Yeah.
is sometimes it's better to have a story drawn out through a series than a 3-hour movie, because you get more time to develop characters and story and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's me. Like we went and saw Mission Impossible. The new John Wick movie comes out tomorrow. The ballerina that comes out tomorrow, and like I want to go see that, but I don't know if we're gonna go see it. And then July, like summer is the worst time because like there's so many movies.
That's when all the movies are coming.
Every big blockbuster's coming out, and I want to go see every single one.
So, speaking of movies coming out this summer, and I was reading, I think yesterday. So the 28 years later.
Yeah,
So I didn't even know this. Apparently, that's going to be a 3.
it's going to be its own trilogy.
It's going to be its own trilogy, and apparently Cillian Murphy is not in this movie.
Supposedly,
that's coming out.
he's not been confirmed to be in this movie,
Right,
and he's claimed he's not in it.
and supposedly he will be in
But
one of the
in one of
movies in the
them.
trilogy. I didn't even know there was going to be a trilogy.
Yeah,
Until yesterday. It was yesterday days old.
What's wild, I actually, with all the news around this movie, I actually went back and rewatched 28 Days Later, which, my God.
That's a great
That's,
movie.
I think we watched that when I was little. Like
We did when it first came
when-
out.
like when I was
What
younger.
would have been like 10ish, maybe
somewhere around
somewhere
there.
in that ballpark.
Because
Yeah.
like me, you and Ryan, we all watched that, didn't we?
I feel
Yeah,
like we did.
we did.
Yeah, I feel like we did.
And then 28 Weeks Later isn't as good, but it's still it's a movie. It's fine. I rewatched that too, because I hadn't seen that probably since it came out. And I was like, man, I'm actually really excited because like they play the trailer again at all the new films, and I'm like, we got to go see that.
I want to see it, although I'm kind of
Are
bummed that he's not going to be in it.
Yeah, because I feel like he's like
he's
the reason to go. Killian in everything now is
Huge.
fake.
I mean, he was
And-
from the original movie.
Yeah,
But we'll have him in the Peaky Blinders movie, supposedly later. I believe later this
sometime
year.
this year.
Yeah,
Is it a Netflix movie or is it gonna?
it's going to be Netflix. Yeah,
Okay.
because it was their series.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. I feel like in some way, and maybe they won't, but just like how they try to be so secretive about stuff until movies come out. I wouldn't be surprised if they tease something in this movie with him. Like I really wouldn't,
Yeah.
especially because he hasn't been doing a whole lot lately.
Right.
Like he did Oppenheimer, and then after that he did like a couple smaller films, and
Yeah.
he's probably been filming Peaky Blinders. But besides that, which Aaron Taylor Johnson's the main guy in this movie, which I like him a lot.
What's he been in?
He was the Kick-Ass Kid.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He was
okay.
more recently. He was in like Bullet Train and
Yeah. Okay.
other stuff. But
Okay.
him, and then Ray Fiennes is in it too.
Oh, is he?
Which
Okay.
he's
I like him.
fantastic and everything.
I like him.
I just watched what was that called? It was the Pope movie. He was just in
Conclave. Was it good?
What's so weird about that movie? This is the weirdest timing, but you know how I had my surgery about a month ago?
Right.
Couldn't do anything but watch TV. Oddly enough, I was watching Conclave on something. It's probably Hulu or something. Watched Conclave. The next day was my urologist appointment. And I go in, and it was the day I had watched Conclave on the day the Pope died by accident. And the Pope dies in the movie. Right. And then the next day at the urologist, the Conclave whole ceremony thing was on the TV. Happening. And I was like, what are the odds of that happening?
Yeah.
It was just odd. It was weird.
That is. That's weird. Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm excited for that. That's probably one of the ones I'm more looking forward to this year. Besides all the other bigger, like, whatever stuff that's coming out, like Superman and Fantastic Four.
The Superman thing is not grasped.
Not jiving with
not,
you. The
grabbing
closer,
me.
I was like a super fanboy when they first announced the teaser trailer. And the longer it goes on, the less excited I am about it. Yeah. So I'm just kind of like, all right, well, I loved Man of Steel, and I thought that movie was so perfect.
I guess I'm a little bit of a bitch when it comes to. We talked about this last week. Like the superhero thing, I'm over that.
It's oversaturated at this point.
I don't need Dog Boy or Rabbit Man or all these people like these like obscure people that came out of comic books that I've never even heard of.
Right.
Not that I was ever a super comic book person, but yeah, I just want something that's just gonna go like that's not tied to something else. That's always, hey, we're gonna make this into a franchise.
Right.
It's like. And
there has been a lot of good original films,
and there are good ones out there,
but they are always outshined by this kind of stuff
because of the budgets and because a big part of that. I asked the question, and now I know part of the answer to that is advertising is a big part of that budget.
Marketing, big actors, big IPs. All that
they
kind
know
of stuff.
If we got one of these 15 actors in it, it's going to be a draw.
Yeah,
that's gonna allow us to spend an ass ton of money to market and advertise, and that's going to grab people.
And it's amazing, like, because I know you've seen it, like the amount of actors that have been reused in films in the last 2 years. It's insane. You see the same face. Like Pedro Pascal's probably been like the busiest actor in the world.
That's a guy that just like over the last probably like 4 years,
4 or 5 years,
4 or 5 years, he's just like exploded.
Yeah, he's always been there.
No,
but in the last few years,
but then
he got picked for all these big roles,
and then they just
back to back.
And they just wear it out.
Nothing against him.
Nothing against him at all. I think he's a good actor.
Him.
But it's like that's the name, and that's the guy we got to go get.
It's like Timothy Chalamet too.
Yeah,
he's been
exactly. He's been
God,
in a billion different things recently.
Besides like smaller films, he became the main actor for the Dune franchise. He was in A Complete Unknown. He was in. Here I go talking shit. Now I can't name all his movies, but you've seen his face everywhere. Yeah, he's been in everything. Tom Holland, so many people.
Have you seen Sinners?
I just watched it yesterday.
What are your thoughts on it?
It's awesome.
I'm a fan, as you know, of like the period piece stuff.
Yeah, and it takes place in like the bayou in Louisiana.
Like it reminded me, like when I first saw
I was just about to bring it up too.
And I didn't even know like the premise of the story when I first saw the trailer, whenever it first came out. I'm a big fan of Lawless.
Oh, good movie. Yeah.
Awesome movie, right? Because I love that, like that Depression era, bootlegging era was like, I would have loved to have lived in that time.
Yeah.
I'd been making some shine.
Right.
Running that shit. That'd have been fun. So it kind of like, it gave me that vibe from that. It's from that essentially the same time era.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't know it was a vampire movie.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
What's really cool about that is it's not centered around vampires.
Okay.
So like Michael B. Jordan plays a set of twins. So
Okay.
he plays himself twice in the movie. He's playing.
What if he got paid twice for that?
Oh, I don't know. I'll have to ask him. Yeah, he plays a set of twin brothers. Smoke and Stack are their names, and it takes place in that whole like
that Depression era.
That era.
Yeah.
They come back from Chicago, and they're these two brothers from Louisiana.
Okay.
And like it's basically like a blues movie,
that's kind of what.
It revolves around like blues music,
Yeah.
and like drinking and partying and
That's
like
what I got when I
gangster kind of stuff.
Yeah.
but then they like implement the vampire thing into that story.
Okay.
But it takes a minute.
So is it worth watching?
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to watch it again.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very good. And it's an original idea too.
It is. It is.
And it's doing really well. I think this is the last weekend it's in theaters because they're putting it on digital.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. Yeah. And I'm really bad about letting trailers influence me, which I shouldn't be. I shouldn't. But
I can't speak for that. I watch every trailer that comes out.
I do. I watch them too, and I make this decision like in 90 seconds. Like,
Yeah.
I'm good.
But that's kind of what we do though. Like
Well, yeah.
trailers are like that 30 seconds to 2 minute time where you get to be a critic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're like, looks okay.
I'll wait till it's free.
Yeah.
When it's free, then I'll watch
I'll wait
it.
till it's in the dollar bin at Dollar General.
Yeah, then I'll get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's free on Tubi,
right.
you know.
Yeah, no, I got to put up with some ads. But
Yeah, whatever.
So
But yeah,
okay,
no,
well, I'm
100%
all
watch that
then
movie.
I'm gonna watch.
If
that.
anything, out of everything that's come out this year, that's the movie to see.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna check it out then.
Over Mission Impossible.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that last time, and I kind of got burnt out on that after about 3 of them.
And that's another one. It's just like it's just a fun shut your brain off kind of movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you could put that movie on in the background and understand what's happening. You know,
Yeah.
and
Have
it's
to be
really all
glued
just
to
for
it.
like the visual and like the
Sure.
crazy
The
shit that
stunts and
happens
all
every
this.
few scenes.
Yeah.
You know,
Blow it up, crazy shit.
because even Alexis, she's not even a fan of those movies. She went with me to see it. And there's a sequence about halfway through the film where it is the most like anxiety inducing thing he does because he's underwater for like I don't know how long,
dude.
And it's
The
deep.
underwater shit.
And it's in the Arctic too.
You remember I told you to watch that movie like a year or two ago, the underwater, the deep sea diving movie.
Which one was that?
I don't remember. The
I obviously
name of
didn't watch it.
it. Yeah, I think you did because we did
Oh, did
talk
I?
about it, but it's been 2 or 3 years. I know I said a year ago, but I think it was more like 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
They were deep sea divers working on like oil rigs under
Okay.
under the water, and the guy's line breaks, and they have to go down and get him. It was called Depth or something. It's not Woody There's a movie out with Woody Harrelson called Last Breath right now, which is like similar.
Okay.
Similar.
I'll have to look it up because I can't remember it right now.
But the underwater stuff,
It gets your
I can't.
yeah. He like yeah. It's probably the best scene in the whole movie.
There's 2 ways I don't want to die.
Drowning.
Yeah. Well, more like
That's my biggest fear too.
more like being stuck way underwater and knowing you're gonna die versus like I'm
like above water
I can
but
get
drowning.
some air, but I'm
Yeah.
drowning. I'm like 100 feet down, and there's no way I'm gonna make it to the top. That's number one. Number 2 is burning to death.
Ooh, yeah.
Those 2 things, no thanks. So the underwater stuff,
Yeah.
That-
Yeah, she was I'm not
gets
gonna
the
lie, I
blood-
was stressed out too,
that
but
gets the blood pressure going.
that scene in particular, because of how long it was pretty stressful. But yeah, Sinners
Okay.
is
I will
is
check
a
that
movie
out.
of the year, I think. I think
Really?
it's probably gonna, even though it's early, because it came out last month in May, so it's been out in it's about halfway
April,
through the
May,
year.
yeah.
I think it'll still hit Oscar season. Like it'll
Really?
probably still be up there for
Okay.
some stuff because just the blues music alone and the Louisiana setting and like oh man, and like Michael B. Jordan too is almost like his accent and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel like him. Because I feel like in most other stuff he does, he kind of feels pretty much like himself.
the Creed stuff.
Yeah, like Creed and
Yeah.
Black Panther and all that.
Black Panther, and then he was in another
Yeah.
like action type.
But
thing.
yeah, Sinners.
I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, it's real good. Oh, anything else we want to talk about?
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah,
tonight.
we
we talked about jobs, and
This came a long way.
that was Did we cover everything that you wanted to cover?
That was
as
it.
far
I mean,
okay.
honestly, the beginning topic was like the majority of what I had written down. So
Okay. Well,
But-
I think that was a good topic.
came full
to get into.
circle though.
Yeah, it did. It did.
All right.
Yeah. So-
Well, thanks for everybody. Anyone joining in today, leave us a comment, leave us a like, share us with your friends and family. We will be on Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube. And we'll catch you next time.